Welcome to the Cedar Valley Podcast. Consider this your inside look at what makes our region special. We talk about everyday life here in the Cedar Valley, the voices speaking up for progress, the ideas shaping our future, and the partners investing in our success. We believe community is built one conversation at a time, and we've saved you a seat at the table.
All right, well, Lauren Finke, welcome to the Cedar Valley Podcast. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your organization.
Thank you. So it's great to be here. Lauren Finke, the director of the Volunteer Center of Cedar Valley. Our organization really exists to promote and support volunteerism. And so our main goal is to connect people with opportunities to serve. And we love the chance that we've been able to do that for the last 30 plus years right here in the Cedar Valley.
Yeah, you are incredible connectors. So thanks for the work that you do. Yeah. Later today, I am going to have Emily Hanson on the podcast. And we both know Emily well. She's a good friend. Tell me a little bit about how you met Emily. Just share some things about Emily.
Well, Emily and I have known each other for a number of years. But honestly, our first interactions, I was fairly new to the Volunteer Center world and the work that we were doing here. And one of the big goals we had initially was to really drive student participation on our board of directors. And that was coming from a lot of community conversations about how important it was to get students at UNI and other higher ed institutions involved in our nonprofit partners and let their voices be heard in the things that we were doing. And so it was exciting that we got the chance to meet Emily and bring her on our board of directors as really our inaugural board member from UNI. And it's been fabulous to know her ever since.
That's awesome. And if I can think of one person who would be really great to kind of set the foundation for who that is, Emily is that person. She's just great. Yeah. She's great, right? Yeah. If you had one question for Emily, what would it be? If you just had a chance to, just kind of ask her one thing, what would you ask?
Well, gosh, in knowing Emily and knowing all the things that she is a part of here in our community and the things that she stands for and believes in, I just really wonder how she gets everything done.
Oh, you and me both. Yeah. I will be excited to find out the answer to that later.
Me too. So, sounds great.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Lauren. We appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Emily, welcome to the Cedar Valley Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, we're going to get through this. It's like only mildly awkward having a conversation with people recording you.
Yeah, right? I know, right?
Okay, well, outside of that, tell me a little bit about Blackhawk County Gaming Association.
So we are a qualified sponsored organization, or QSO. I always like to tell people there are only 15 that exist in the world, and they're all here in Iowa. So back in the 80s when they were legalizing gaming here, the legislator was really smart and thought strategically about, we don't want these casinos coming in, making a ton of money off of Iowans and sending it elsewhere. We want to keep as much money here as local. And so they created the QSO system to keep at least 3% of the casino revenue in the host communities. They also created or put some other checks and balances in place to have local vendors be preferences and things. And so that's why we're here and we exist, is we get money off of the revenue with the tables and slots and then give it back to the community in a variety of different ways.
That's really interesting. So just tell me a little bit about your day today and what your role looks like within the organization.
Yes, so as the director, I don't have a day that looks the same, which is quite beautiful too. I get to be out in the community hearing about the great work and the progress that's happening. I get to work with the casino and see what they're doing too and how they're investing in entertainment upgrades and partnering across the state. I get to work with local cities too and hear what's on their radar and the work that they have kind of coming up. And then I get to work with my board as well. We have 13 board members that all live in Blackhawk County that have really diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise, and they're the ones who come together and make the grant decisions. So it's my job and Sarah, our grant coordinator's job, to collect all of the information so that they can make the most informed decisions possible.
Awesome. You guys have always had a really good board too. as you've transitioned through the years, but I have kept track of who's on that list. And it's always a group of people who are really engaged and really understand what we have and what the needs are in the community. So
yes,
kudos to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really fun getting to work with different people, and it's also hard when you have great board members and they have to be transitioned off. But I feel like I have grown so much having so many different board members with different areas of expertise serve in leadership roles. I get to see kind of how they think about things, how they process, how they prioritize, and it's really helped me grow as a leader as well, having so many people with different perspectives serve on our board.
I bet. So your organization has supported a ton of projects in this community. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
What do you typically look for in the projects that you're supporting? Whether that's just parameters or what are the prereqs? What are you looking for when you support a project?
Yeah, so in the last 18 years, we've given out over $85 million, which is pretty incredible. Yeah. And our projects are very different from one another, but there are some common similarities. We tend to fund 86% of what we funded has been capital infrastructure, so like built things, really looking at quality of life, things that make the Cedar Valley unique, that keep people here, that get people excited, and helping serve as kind of a catalyst in doing things that cities or nonprofits couldn't do otherwise. We do some capacity building grants as well, so helping support nonprofit organizations with websites or strategic plans too. That was a need that we kept hearing from organizations, was something that was hard to fundraise for. So we added that as well. But the types of projects, it's really hard to draw a through line too. We've done like city streetscapes, we've done the convention center projects, but we also did a $250 grant to the library last year to get a specific set of books for a book club that they needed help with too. So it's pretty diverse because the communities that we serve are diverse as well.
Yeah. Okay, so this is going to be an unfair question. Do you have a favorite project that you've supported?
It's probably depending on
handful.
Yeah, it's probably depending on my mood, how I would answer that question. There are a couple that come to mind right away. The first is Blackhawk County Gaming and the Otto Schweitz Foundation did joint grants to Habitat for Humanity in the Walnut neighborhood, and really took kind of a risk on this new innovative approach that Allie and Habitat had to look at the neighborhood in a holistic way and try to do mixed income housing and look at the neighborhood association. And we have done 2 other grants since that initial seed funding because it's been so successful. And we've watched it ripple out into Church Row, and Allie's been asked to speak at like national conferences about the work here. It's truly inspiring and innovative, and it's been great to see it grow. So it's hard when it's something so different and unique for that not to be the first thing that comes to mind, because you see the impact. And obviously housing is such a huge need in our community too. But I also think of, we've done some smaller grants in rural communities too, and the rural perspective, I didn't come from a smaller town, but in this job I've learned a lot about it, and how important it is to keep investing in like local emergency management services and things. And we did a grant to the Independence Fire Department, and went out last year and met with them, and they were so appreciative and excited, and that makes you feel good too. And the reach that they have and how many people they're impacting as well. It's like a $10,000 grant for us, which doesn't feel huge, but seeing the impact of that is pretty incredible as well.
We have been fortunate that at Grow Cedar Valley, we do a lot of ribbon cuttings to celebrate milestones here in the Cedar Valley. And so when you talk about the impact, one thing I've noticed is I see you at a lot of the ribbon cuttings that we're doing as well. And everybody is always so appreciative for the funds that they get from gaming. So that's, I think, a really, really cool thing to get to see firsthand. And I think it's interesting to be able to share with our listeners that you are definitely having an impact in the Cedar Valley.
Yeah, well, so, thank you. And it's fun just being, I always say we're a small part. I know that the dollars are important, but our board members comment on this a lot too. When you're looking at our grant applications, it's easy to look at what's happening and say, oh, nobody cares or things aren't moving forward. But really, truly, there are so many people doing incredible things. We just don't always hear about it. And so my job is pretty cool that I get to hear about the great things and the citizens coming together and people working hard to make things better too.
Awesome. So you talked about Otto Schweitz.
Yes.
I happen to know that you share an office space with a couple other nonprofits here in the community. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, we moved into a building that we call Union Block. It's not something that we named, it's literally the name on the building when you drive by. But it's us, so the Gaming Association, Otto Schweitz Foundation, the McElroy Trust, and the Waterloo Community Foundation. We are all small grant makers, and you know, we want to have a big impact, and had this realization of we're stronger together and we want to be able to lean on each other. And instead of all of us trying to be everywhere all at the same time and do all of the things, what if we come together and try to leverage this?
Smart.
And it's been really fun, but also beautiful and kind of powerful. We've been able to do some volunteering things together. We've done some collaborative meetings with all of our board members together, which you presented at recently. We've been able to, you know, when somebody new moves to town to serve in a director role, we invite them in to meet with all of us at the same time rather than making them meet with all of us separately. So there's some good synergy there too. It's been really fun to all be together, but also really strategic to all kind of work together. And we're still 4 separate organizations. We still have 4 different funding models, 4 different boards, different grants that we give out, but looking at how can we actually make a difference and remove some of the hoops that people have to jump through when it comes to the grant making process too.
No, that makes a ton of sense. So talking specifically about the presentation that we just did on the population study, maybe tell me a little bit more about how will you, as Blackhawk Gaming, utilize the information that was presented in the population study, and then collectively, how will the 4 of you use that information?
Yeah, my board right now is really interested in hearing about like community needs, community data, and needs is a really broad term. We always talk about how like investing in quality of life, investing in emergent needs is important, but also we have people to feed and we have people to educate too. And so it's kind of threading this really specific needle when it comes to our funding. And they like doing that based on data and having real hard evidence to kind of back up what we're looking at. And not just data for an individual organization, but shared data. So that's why the population study was something that was really attractive to them. It was something that a lot of time and effort was put into. It wasn't just one organization doing it. It was a huge collaborative community effort. And after the presentation, they kind of went through and as individual organizations and board members ranked where they saw us partnering. What came out of that, which is not surprising to me, is they really believe in this one vision, one Cedar Valley, about all of us kind of working together and collaborating. I know from our standpoint, funding a lot of capital things, historically, it's just hard to maintain things 50 years if we're building separate buildings all of the time. And so what can we do to try to leverage resources and push forward together and maybe have some shared things? That was a lot of the conversation that we've had after. And I think we've had that the last 5 years too. I know I've talked to both mayors about that as well, but it was just great to see our board members on board with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was a fun meeting, and it was cool to see all of the different groups engage with the information that we presented, and then ultimately to see where people really kind of felt plugged in or felt connected to. So very cool.
I can't say that we'll fund like one thing in particular, but I do think like they will use a lens and when seeing grants say, okay, this is for the city of Cedar Falls. How is this benefiting Waterloo and what does this look like? This is for Waterloo. How does this benefit Cedar Falls?
That's great.
It's for Evansdale, Elk Run Heights. Just looking at the ripple effect and maybe having more of a regional approach is something that we're striving for, and we're going to keep challenging people to think about as well.
I love that. That is definitely something that we're working on as well. So we're aligned there, which is great. It starts with that, right?
Absolutely.
We all need to be aligned around kind of the same thoughts and ideas. You talked about efficiency, making sure that we're all rowing in the same direction, because if we're not, then we're not as productive as we could be.
Exactly.
So it's a good place to start from. So when you look at the Gaming Association, let's say 5-10 years from now, how does it look different than it does today?
That's a good question. I think we will continue to invest in things that are moving the Cedar Valley forward. And I can't tell you what those things will be, right? Part of being a grant maker is being a little bit reactive to who's got the big idea, who's willing to think outside of the box. But some of that too is looking at how can we use our resources to help the Cedar Valley overall. And I don't think we're going to change our grant making significantly. Who knows? Also, it's up to the board, but I think we know kind of what our role is in the Cedar Valley. I think it's more fine tuning that. And when we see people who are taking good strategic calculated risks, investing in them and supporting them too. Let's not just maintain the status quo. Let's try to do something better for the community and better for the Cedar Valley overall.
Love that. Love that. So you are certainly involved in the community through what you do with Black Hawk Gaming, but there's more than that. You are very engaged in the Cedar Valley community. So we are neighbors with the Volunteer Center. We've got a great team with Lauren and Kelsey over there. So let's talk a little bit about your relationship with the Volunteer Center, and then maybe share a little bit just about how you engage in the community outside of your work. Love to hear about that.
So way back when I was in college, I actually served as the student representative of the Volunteer Center.
No kidding.
For a year. Yeah. So Lauren was my first board experience and was really great and really set me up for success in a lot of ways too. So I'm appreciative for that. Sure. I've been a volunteer for the Volunteer Center the last 5 or 6 years at Appetite for Service, their fundraiser. I get to partner with the casino. They always buy a table and then we get to dress up. And I will brag, I did win the costume competition 2 years ago, and then we won the silver server tray 1 year ago. So humble brag there.
And what's the silver server?
It is for
award?
Most money raised during the event.
Awesome.
So shout out to Megan Miller for having a great creative fundraising idea with a Willy Wonka theme. We were selling chocolate bars that if you got one of the golden tickets, you got actual money. So it was very easy to sell those.
That's awesome.
But yeah, volunteering is something that as a child, my parents had us doing constantly, my sister and I. That was just something that we did as a family. And I think is why I chose to pursue a career in nonprofit management and kind of where I'm at today. I also serve on the Waterloo Public Library Board. And then Union Block as a team, we have decided that 3 or 4 times a year we want to volunteer for different organizations in the community. So giving back, learning about what they do. Awesome. So if anybody's listening and interested in having us come and volunteer, feel free to reach out.
Great.
Always looking for different opportunities and ways to give back too.
Super. I also know that beyond the volunteering, you have a second job as well.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
I, for the last 8 years, have taught adjunct at UNI in the Recreation Tourism Nonprofit Leadership Department. So I love working with the students. I learned so much from them. The last 3 or 4 years, I've taught financial resource management, which is fundraising, budgeting, and grant writing. So it's fun to combine my academic background also with what I do every day. And I will take real grants that people submit to us and use them as examples and talk about different things too. It's really fun. Brian Ernest came and spoke to them last week, and he talked about the CourtWorks project. And so many of my students had never heard of it before, and watching their excitement about things that were happening here locally is pretty cool too.
That is very cool. And Brian is the president of Amperage,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
They do.
Another great local partner.
Yes, absolutely. Do you have a favorite student in your class currently?
I can't pick favorites, but I think that you might have a favorite student of mine.
I do have a favorite student in your class right now. My daughter is actually taking your class.
Molly's been great to have in class, and I've really enjoyed getting to know her too.
Yeah. Well, all jokes aside,
yeah,
it's a great class, and I think it's really cool that you are able to take what you're doing in your professional capacity and use that to influence the next generation of leaders who are going to do this work behind us. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, so. I feel lucky that we live in a community that has such a great university that I think invests in those types of things and understands the community connection, but also that I have a job that allows me to do that too.
Absolutely.
It's pretty special.
Absolutely. So remind me, how long have you been here in the Cedar Valley?
I've been in the Cedar Valley, I think 12 years as an adult. So outside of you and I took a small gap between when I was an undergrad student and when I came back to work here professionally.
Okay. So I have to ask, as somebody who's lived here my whole life, I always love to talk to people who came at a different point. Tell me, like, what do you love about the Cedar Valley?
Yeah, I love the community that's here. I mean, when I accepted my first full-time job outside of grad school, I didn't think that this was going to be where I would stay permanently, just to be totally honest and transparent. But I stayed and continue to stay because of the people that are here. I love that I can go outside and walk my dog and run into neighbors, and they're all informed and excited, and there's good synergy here too. There really is, and I feel like people care in a lot of different capacities as well. And it's not just the same, like 3 people involved in everything. There's really a good sense of community. And I feel like I get to be a part of that, which is pretty cool too.
I love that. I love that. Well, we are grateful for you, and we're lucky to have you here in the Cedar Valley. Before we end our conversation today, is there anything else about the Gaming Association that you want to share, that you want to make sure people know what you do? Anything else you want to share?
I think it's good for us to acknowledge that Lynn County has a license to operate a casino, and they will be opening within the next year as well. But, you know, we're here to stay. We, even with the loss of revenue that might be like 10%, we will still be the largest funder here in the Cedar Valley. We really care about the work that's being done, and we might not be able to fund everything, but we enjoy hearing about what's going on and partnering. And, you know, the Cedar Valley is a special place too. I always like to describe our community as we have urban, suburban, and rural all in a small area, and you can't compare them. And yes, that may sometimes be a little bit challenging, but there's also something really beautiful about that too. I mean, it's really a good picture of what Iowa looks like overall. And so I'm happy and thankful that I get to be a part of that.
Awesome. Well, Emily Hanson, we are so glad to have you in our community, and we are so fortunate to have Black Hawk County Gaming Association here supporting the great things that are happening, the great projects. And as you said earlier, some of those things that not everybody knows about, but there's a lot of great people and a lot of great ideas and things coming out of our community, and you help support that. So thanks for joining us on our podcast today, and thanks for all you do.
Yeah, thanks, Katie.
Thanks for joining the conversation. More stories, updates, and voices from across the Cedar Valley coming your way. Stay tuned for the next episode.